Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we are live today. Happy Wednesday. Let's start off talking about this latest situation coming from the Middle East as Israel and Hamas are at war. More importantly, what does that put black people in America? We'll have that little bit of conversation. Also, the House is voting to move forward on choosing Representative Steve Scalise forward in that process to become the next House Speaker. So I'm gonna just ask my sister Suzette to get her take on it a little bit more. Also, out of New York City, Representative George Santos is put under scrutiny as he is under more charges for fraud, causing the New York House to expel him from public service. Wow, we'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. Folks, I got so much to talk about today. Plus, we got something about Jada Pinkett Smith. Oh man, you don't want to miss one word, 1 minute, 1 hour of the culture. Stay with us. Join us in the chat right now as we're streaming live on YouTube under Roland Martin, and stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are broadcasting live. Happy Wednesday. This is live show, folks. We're just getting ourselves prepared for next week's big summit. So don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Things are coming together. But thank you so much for tuning in today to be a part of the conversation. Man, oh man, y'all, it's Wednesday and we have so much to talk about. And I'm going to be joined in a few moments by my sister, Suzette Speaks, who is an attorney, who is the host of her show, Suzette Speaks Show, right there on YouTube. So we're going to be checking in with Sister Suzette in a moment. But got a lot to talk about. The latest piece is this situation out of DC where Republicans have decided to move forward in choosing Representative Steve Scalise as the next House Speaker. So voting is happening right now. We're actually streaming this whole process right on our website at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. And while you're there, folks, just know that we are streaming on other platforms, including Amazon News and your Fire TV. We're also streaming on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're also streaming on Amazon Prime Video. You can find us there as well. And we're on Freevee. So that's the Prime Video. You can just find us under there on that Live TV, the news, or you can go to Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, the news, or you can go to Freevee, where we are under news. So we are definitely streaming on all of those spaces, but make sure y'all let your friends and family know that we're streaming live right now. And again, folks, we are live today. So I'm very, very excited to have these conversations, but we are, there's so much stuff that is happening that again, Republicans are trying to decide or move forward in the vote to put Representative Steve Scalise into the House Speaker position. That's being streaming right now. And of course, the big talk that's on social media and all across the country, especially yesterday, is the situation between Israel and Hamas, how Israel has declared war on the Palestinian, on Palestinian country, the nation there, and more importantly, declared war on Hamas. And this has been a huge talk on social media. So I want to bring my sister in, Suzette Speaks, who is the attorney out of Florida, my sister, who's also the host of the show. She's actually a political strategist? Can we throw that into the mix?
You might as well. That's good. Yes, sir.
You said might as well.
Hey, everybody. Shout out to the culture crew and good to be here.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of that's happening. You know, we got stuff that's happening domestically, Suzette. Then you got stuff that's happening, of course, internationally. Let's start with where we are on an international level, just getting a little bit into that part. and then we can kind of bring stuff close to home here. Would that work for you?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Let's start with this piece around what's going on with Israel and Hamas. There's been a lot of conversation, and I know there are so many details to this part of the discussion, right, as to who is what and who's responsible for what. But I think that it is a valid question to ask, where should Black Americans stand on this issue, right? And some people say that we should stand for those who have been killed. There have been over 1,000. This is just one of the numbers, and I'm sure you probably see some different numbers, Suzette. But they've said that there are already 1,000 people that have been killed during the course of this conflict on both sides, both on Israel and Palestine side. But there's a new fervor around what's happening, what we're seeing internationally, which I think is very interesting. The big silver lining of this, Suzette, is even though many folks may not know the intricate details and all of the history of Israel and the Palestinian conflict that has been raging for decades, the big thing is that there is some interest from Black folks in this country to want to learn a little bit more about this level of geopolitics, right? So I think that that's a silver lining that can come out of this situation. But there are some other underlining pieces that I'm starting to see, that if some Black folks are feeling like, look, if you're Black, you should be standing with Palestinians. If you're not quote unquote Black, you would probably stand with the Israelis. Just want to get your take on the cultural part of this conversation. Again, this is big. We're going to try to do our part to just break it down into small pieces. But I think culturally something is happening here where Black America is trying to figure out, where do I stand? And more importantly, who do I stand in solidarity with? Do you stand in solidarity with those who have been, quote unquote, historically oppressed in that part of the country, in that part of the world? Do you stand with Israelis whose women and children have been killed as a result of this latest attack from Hamas? It leaves us in a very peculiar predicament here.
Yes, this is really a much difficult question to answer, because I'm looking at the complexities as you've raised that lie in the question as to, where we as African American, Black American people should show our solidarity. So first and foremost, as we always kind of point out, is that Black people, we are not monolithic. Black people are on many sides of this issue right now as we speak. I know there have not been any recent polling, because I was looking before we came live to say accurately what we believe, but there have been many articles like the one in the Griot recently, talking to one geopolitical expert as to what she is seeing. She works in national security, and her point of view was that she sees a split. Now, again, I think if you line up 10 Black folks from across the country, you are going to see a diverse a range of opinions, because people feel very strongly on both sides, if you want to call it as sides. I'm on humanity's side. But for me personally, looking at what happened, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge that this was a terrorist attack by Hamas. And no matter how you feel about the innocent people, whether those on the Israeli side, just the regular civilian, everyday people that woke up last Saturday at 7 a.m. with terrorists in their bedrooms, at their doorsteps, doing what savages do, cut open people, killing people in the most horrific ways. There is a larger conversation that is being sparked about, how did we get here? So I think there's some distinctions that we need to make between Hamas, that terrorist kind of armed, rebellious, some would call it jihadist even, and others who are looking at the innocent people who are sitting inside of the Gaza Strip, right? Those who you did have referred to as Palestinian, those who are of Arab descent, that live within those borders, that confined 25-mile strip within the prescribed border of what is Israel. So there are some folks who are now looking at it saying that what we've seen in social media, and again, they don't speak for every Black person, and I read two specific organizations, Black Lives Matter, Grassroots. I think they're out of California. We've actually had them here. And I think there was one I don't want to get it wrong, Black Lives Matter, I believe it was in the Chicago area. Both showed, on their X accounts, on their formerly known as Twitter accounts, these type of messages. We support Palestinians. We support, the suffering and what's going on there in Gaza. But I think we need to also, be very conscientious that there are a lot of African Americans that stand solidly with Israel and their right to exist and their right to self-determination, as well as see the plight of the Palestinian people, saying that they have a right to exist and to dignity and self-determination. So this is a very multi-layered answer, but I know we have to take a quick break, but we can get into it as to why there are African Americans and Black people as a whole across United States and the diaspora that feel, very strongly one way or another. So there's not one answer as to where we should be, but we've seen some vocal support for the Palestinian cause, but we've also seen folks come out and straight up condemn what terror was just unleashed on the Israeli people in this attack. So there are many of us on both sides.
And you know what, Suzette? It's like I said, this is decades. So for those who are just becoming conscious of this thing, you have to, I think to some degree, you have to kind of go as far back to the beginning or as close to the beginning as possible and see, because I think that's where the root of the issues, and I think that's where the problems really start, considering that history. So I think you're right in the respect of, we're at this place. These two, nations of people we're right here. But it's going to be super important, I think, for Black America that we understand the history and try to listen to those scholars within our community who can give us some guidance, so that way we can have some light moving forward. Because as much as this stuff is happening and I see all types of stuff, like I feel like a lot of people, and I think a lot of us are still in the dark because this is not a part of your normal study of things. If you study geopolitics, that's one thing. If you keep up on what's going on in the Palestinian, Israeli, type of movements, that's something. But in terms of the average Black person, quote unquote, I'm not saying average, I'm just saying the quote unquote, your average Black citizen, we're not in a part of the conversation. We're not at the table when it comes to making decisions about this. So if we do stand in solidarity, then we got to know what we're standing for and what we're standing against at the same time. And I think that requires us to study a little bit, to learn the history. I think that requires us to get some good guidance from people around us, those who have been involved in, breaking these things down. And I think that it requires us to use the best of intelligence to be able to say, you know what? All right, this is how we're going to move forward. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation on the other side. Crew, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Where should we as Black folks stand during this crisis and conflict? And I'm going to share with you some of my concerns. Suzette going to continue to share her concerns. And let's see if we can come into some understanding of how we should move forward in this process. Stay with us. The conversation is just getting started here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about where should Black America stand when it comes to this Israel-Hamas conflict. Should we even take a stand? And I've been checking in with my sister Suzette Speaks, host and attorney. And Suzette, you know, there are so many different dynamics at play during the course of this conversation. My big thing is like, okay, I'm glad to see that Black folks are, expressing themselves and at least starting the process to understand geopolitics, because that's what this is, right? And more importantly, starting to understand some of the history of this. But there are many different dynamics. Here are some of the key factors that I thought, Suzette, and I want to get your take, and crew, I want you to join us in the conversation, because many of you, I will say some, I'm not gonna say many, Suzette, let's say some of the crew are simply saying, not our battle, staying out of it. We're going to stay out of this, you know? But my concern, here's my concern, y'all. As much as we'd like to believe, and I'm not saying I'm trying to be Mr. Doomsday here, but as much as we can say, all right, let's stay out of this, let's stay out of this. When I heard President Biden yesterday, Suzette, say 14 Americans were kidnapped, a couple of Americans were bombed or were killed during that attack by Hamas, I started thinking about, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong in thinking this. I started thinking about how wars had been started before, where there were American citizen casualties as a result of two other nations fighting each other, and then the United States being brought into a situation. We can probably go back to every major war that this country has been engaged in and draw and connected the dots to show the link that America was involved in that war because of some interest. Now, it could have been oil, but it could have been American lives. And we've seen that time and time again, that's oftentimes the precipice for getting involved, having boots on the ground. So when I heard the president say that, talking about the human atrocity of those who were killed by the Israelis that died, the ongoing conflict, and then when he said that, he started talking about those 14 Americans who were involved in this situation, kidnapped and everything, and some had died in all of those. I was like, oh my God, are we getting pulled in? Matter of fact, for those who don't know, Senator Cory Booker, who is, of course, the black senator, our black senator, he was over there when the attack started to happen. he said, according to a report, that he was just taking a jog, and one of his staff members had reached out to him while he was jogging and said, "You need to take cover." And then boom, the attack started to happen. So he could have been one of the casualties, an American casualties of that. So I'm just putting these things out here real quick, Suzette. But along with the loss of life and those who were kidnapped, the other elements that I see is that some people say Hamas does not necessarily, quote unquote, represent the Palestinians or the Palestinian efforts to, to broker some level of independence, that they're kind of working as this kind of rogue group, and they have links to Iran. So that's one of the things that I've saw. The other thing is, on the United States and Israel side, the unequivocal support, financial support, that the United States has given Israel each and every year. When you're talking about billions of dollars for military aids, unequivocal, unprotested, bipartisan aid that's given by our country to Israel. So that's another dynamic of this. And then I think the other point is Black Americans being able to stand in solidarity with those who are oppressed globally. That when we start to open ourselves up to reaching across the ocean to stand in solidarity, then that broadens the movement for us. And I agree with that. But that's another part of this process, is like, we should be standing with those who are oppressed. We should be standing with those who have been under, quote unquote, tyrannical rule. So I want to kind of get your take on this, because I know it's a lot of different pieces, there's a lot of different dynamics, but there's certainly some pros and cons of us being at least involved or at least engaged. What's your take?
So first and foremost, I think as Americans, we have to pay attention and we have to be involved. As you just stated, whether it's because of our tax dollars that are spent in this region, and knowing that what happens in this region does have an impact as our country goes, whether it's getting involved militarily or otherwise. We have a stake as Americans in what is happening in the Middle East. Let's take it back a few decades so we can understand. And again, we can go back a couple centuries, really. As you said, you have to understand the genesis of what, now, no pun intended. I know a lot of people are quoting the Bible in the chat, but looking at fast forward to World War II and what happened. When we talk about oppressed people, when we talk about historical genocide and what happened to Jewish people in the war with the Nazis, 6 million of them were annihilated by a regime that was just in its purest form evil. So beyond that war, from 1941 to 1945, after that war, the state of Israel came into being. And again, there were so many different talks between the allies, or what became the United Nations, and Arab countries that are in that region. And long story short, and again, I'm not an expert in Middle Eastern history or geopolitics. I'm just giving you the short version of contextual history so that we understand how did we get here. So you had a state that was formed by UN charter, but many of the surrounding Arab nations didn't agree to this the border formation of what is now today the state of Israel. So you had a strip of land that extended out of Egypt, what is now Gaza. You had the West Bank, which is also containing a lot of people who were made refugees after the formation of Israel. So you have groups of people who claim, ancestral heritage to this land. And then you also have our Jewish brothers and sisters who were given this land based on what happened to them in Europe. They were given a homeland, somewhat of a reparation, if you will, so that they could be living in peace and harmony and taken out of the despicable atrocities that had just occurred in World War II. So you have this dispute that has been going on. Israel's going to be 75 years old. And you also have folks within these territories, the Gaza Strip, who are looking for self-determination and a way to actually live a dignified life as well. However, the people of Gaza have not had an election since 2007 and have been de facto taken over by, run by Hamas. And again, there's a distinction between what is going on with the government of that, or the takeover of the military by, the military, which I call it outlying wing of terrorists called Hamas, and the actual people who want to live, breathe, and go about a dignified life. In Gaza, the poverty rate is about 81%. About half of the population does not work or has no means of earning a living. They depend on aid. And there has been a blockade of supplies for quite some time now, where there's no food, etc., only like aid-based relief for 2 million plus people. The size of the land is about twice the size of Washington, D.C., but has about 3 times as many inhabitants. 2.2 million or so people live there, and it is a grievous situation for them. Nonetheless, this militaristic arm has taken it upon themselves to, within its own charter, within that organization, Hamas's self-determined reason for existence is to destroy Israel. That's what there's no like, let's live side by side, let's figure out peace solution, let's figure out how we do this together. No, they have taken up arms, and as we saw in what they just conducted, did some of the most heinously barbaric and again, to civilians, not to another military, ran into people's homes, and because of their hate-filled ISIS-like approach, if you want to call it that, wreaked terror upon over 1,000 people in this surprise attack. They were ambushed right on the border there. Now the people in Gaza have to suffer, because what would you do if your country was attacked in this type of quite barbaric way? They shut off all water, all electric, all food and other supplies to Gaza. And now you have a civilian population that is in peril sitting there because of what a militaristic arm and that has controlled, if you will, the area and the government has done. So we want to make distinctions between the people who are leading this terroristic group and the day-to-day people that live and are trying to survive there. But nonetheless, we also have to look at what the mindset of those who have been oppressed. Again, I think people now look at the prosperity of Israel and prosperity of folks who, since the Holocaust, have come, mighty long way. But they too were, or are, I could say, very much a persecuted group. So when we're talking about people who are marginalized and persecuted, I think it can be there are ways in which people can interpret the same set of facts quite differently. But there are folks that know, because of the history of what happened during World War II, this was an essential step in forming some sort of peaceful and democratic established state in the Middle East. To bring it forward to now, if we look at who surrounds Israel, there have been a lot of governments, like you've mentioned, Iran and others, that are outright hostile to the United States. There is a geopolitical advantage of having a democratic partner in a state like Israel, so that we can exert our influence, like it or not, because that's what we're in the business of, right? Maintaining a world order, hopefully, that the United States can have influence in, and not creating a situation where there are countries that have other rogue actors. If they're Hamas in Gaza, there's Hezbollah and other enclaves. There are all kinds of terroristic factions going on, and the United States is looking at, again, a long-term partner. We also have to recognize there are a lot of people in Israel who have dual citizenship with the United States and Israel. So there are tons of Americans. I think
a lot of elected officials.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of elected, and I got to take a quick pause, Suzette, but that's part of the reason that I think we're in this situation as a country, just simply because we're so closely linked to Israel. And I'm saying, as a country, as an administration, every single administration from Biden all the way back have shown this this unequivocal support for Israel. But when there's, and I've seen this, and this is not just all Farajii just going, but when you talk about Palestinian hurt, Palestinian pain, and especially looking at the sanctions that the Palestinian people have been operating under, that same level of support is not there. Every single administration, presidential administration, has kept that money train going. So if the United States is serious about preserving or saving people's lives, then you have to look at, okay, in this particular case, yes, okay, there's an attack by Hamas, but is this a ongoing thing? Has the Palestinian people been, has Palestine imposed sanctions on Israel? Like, who really has the power in this situation, right? And I think that we have to figure out, and this is the very hard part, folks. I'm not saying I got all the answers, or nor Suzette, but I think in a situation like this, you got to go down to what is right and what is just. And I think that's the only way to be. Now, the unfortunate casualties, we got to take a quick pause, but I'm going to share my thoughts on that, because as much as we talk about the human atrocities of this whole attack, or even in the ongoing fighting that has been happening for decades, this is war. And guess who creates war? Government. Government. We could talk about the effect, but you got to talk about the cause. You got to talk about the cause. Is it policy? Because if you put in sanctions on a group of people, that's considered a form of structural violence. If you're telling the people that they are less than, or you put them in a caste system, that's a form of structural violence. The human being will have to push back, because it is our nature as part of our DNA to protect ourselves. Just like what we experience here in this country. You keep pushing Black folks to the corner, and then guess what's going to happen? We're going to figure out and say, look, the government can't do nothing. The politicians can't do nothing. This institution not going to help me. That institution not going to help me. Therefore, I'm going to take matters into my own hands, and I'm going to start doing something, because the human being can only suffer under injustice. The human being can only suffer in silence, but for so long. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation. Crew, I would love to get your take on this. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I'm talking to my sister, Suzette Speaks, as we talk about where should Black America stand on this conflict with Israel and Hamas. And some folks are saying, Suzette, in the chat that we don't have any business being over there. Some folks are saying that it's beyond us to get involved. My concern is that if it gets too hot and heavy, that Biden's hand is going to be forced to address this in a military manner. Now, if Biden is forced to send some troops to the ground, and I'm not saying he will, or if he's forced to ask the American people to pony up more money, because we already given Israel billions of dollars. So if he's saying, look, Israel needs to defend itself, Israel needs our support, then that affects us here at home. There's no geopolitical conflict, and I want all folks to understand, with this level of closeness, don't believe that this doesn't affect us, because it's either going to affect our mind, our pockets. It's going to either affect the culture in this country around the conversation about how to treat Jewish people versus how to treat people from Palestine or folks from that part of the world. I remember when 9/11 happened. When 9/11 happened, being a Muslim in this country was treacherous. Treacherous. And any sign of somebody using any type of language, Arabic language or Arabic or anything like that at that time, it was such a high sensitivity against Muslims and Islam, that Islamophobia, as they termed it. So this stuff happens. This stuff really bothers us. This stuff can truly affect us. And Suzette, I'm not of the mindset of that's over there and we're over here. I feel like, we should keep our minds on what's going on. It may not affect us at this particular moment, but look at what's happening with Russia and the ongoing fight with Ukraine. Now we got this jumping off. America has her hands in both of those conflicts. How will it not affect us as Black people in this country?
Yeah, if it affects America, it affects us. There's no separation there in my mind's eye of why we need to pay attention. It's our government and what our leaders are doing in response to either conflict, obviously, to me, impacts us, whether it's our military's involvement, whether it's our purse, as we say, the power of the purse and what we fund. But of course, we are taxpayers, we are citizens, we are people who have a vested interest in making sure our country does well, and therefore we can live this American dream that we speak of so often. But looking at the comments also, I gave a very brief overview of why we are here. And yes, the land that is now Israel was at one point administered by the British Empire. I see someone correcting me that it wasn't the United Nations, it was Britain first. Of course, yes, back in 1947, Britain controlled what is now the state of Israel. And it was trying to administer it again as imperial powers did at that time. So, and I see comments there, you know, it wasn't Britain's land to give in the first place, et cetera, et cetera. However you feel about that history, we are here now with those, the creation of this state and the borders that now exist and the people that live within those borders who live in conflict. Even though this has flared up because of this terrorism attack, they are constantly going back and forth with rockets. This is not something that is unusual or new to people who live in the region. This has now come to a head because of the nature of these atrocities that we saw just this past weekend. When speaking yesterday, President Biden, I think he said it was about 22 Americans that had died so far.
Yeah.
And again, several are expected, as you mentioned, to be held hostage. These include women. These include children. These include elderly. These include Holocaust survivors. And thinking about, again, the nature that Hamas has undertaken with this attack, it's savagery. It's bludgeoning. It is, again, medieval in a sense. I cannot find an adequate description of what actually took place in hand-to-hand combat with these terrorist fighters and everyday people who were minding their business at 7 a.m. in the morning, people who were at a music festival, 20, 19-year-olds sitting, you know, outside chilling. That was an international show. A lot of people were in town from other countries, didn't have the perspective of what was really happening when they started seeing rockets overhead in the distant sky, only to find bullets shooting their friends and neighbors. Over 260 plus people died driving away, trying to get away from militants who had invaded this music festival in the desert there close to the border. This was a very sick and really tragic and terroristic. It doesn't seem to fully encompass what actually happened. So any government that type of incursion happens to, they're going to respond. And again, there are innocent people sitting in Gaza that didn't shoot a bullet, that didn't have a vote on what is going to happen and what Hamas is going to do. Some don't even really support Hamas. They want to just, again, live with dignity and the right to self-determination. But now we have a larger scale. I would also like to throw out there, as you mentioned, as we are simulcasting the broadcast of hopefully the speaker vote. This is why when we did the show last week, it was so important that we talk about how we have to have functioning government, because the way monies can flow to our allies is through resolutions by Congress. The president can't, in his own or her own volition and might, just sign a check. No, appropriations, as they're called, funding bills, come through Congress. And our House, as we have been sitting for the past almost week without a president, speaker, of the House, you know, we couldn't conduct this business. That's why it's so important that we have functional leadership. And what Matt Gaetz and his colleagues in that far right kind of, again, terroristic, legislatively speaking, part of the Republican caucus did, that's why it matters. Stuff like this, it can be that people see our weakness in our own government. And
oh my gosh, yes.
Again, I see comments about what was going on locally in the politics of Israel. That was a huge piece of it. I do believe, I don't have my phone with me, guys, so I'm not able to respond and say hello. But someone spoke about, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the head of Israel, was under a lot of pressure because he himself was trying to get rid of their Supreme Court there and give himself more powers, right? That
sounds like, hey, Suzette, that sounds like somebody we know.
Their own people, about a fifth of their people every week was in the streets of Israel over the last several months protesting what Bibi Netanyahu was doing. So there was a lot of other things going on. People are saying, how did they get surprised? Were they too focused on internal politics? You know, what is going on the West Bank as well? There was more, it looks like, military support on that side. There were other things. This, again, has so many moving parts to it. But again, I think if you were a country that somebody did this to your people, your natural response is time to go to war. And I don't like to see it. I wouldn't want to see it. I would love to see something where there's a humanitarian corridor for people in Gaza, for food, for water, potable and things like this for innocent people who have nothing to do with this in terms of what Hamas has perpetrated on the Israeli people.
All right, let me get a couple of comments from the crew here. Let me see something here. This is from my brother Willie Frazier. He said, "This is colonization and apartheid. Take out Israel and Palestine and put in indigenous Africans and the Afrikaans. Same thing." Tiana, you checked in and said, "This world has become chaos and disorder." Monkey Confessions, you said, "American Nightmare. We built the American dream for other people who came by choice." Karen, you said, "We are Israel." Thank you so much. Tiana, you said, "It's going to affect us economically." Andre Cross, you said, "I have no loyalty to either or any nation/state who engages intimidation tactics to control less stable neighbors. This is troubling in mind for sure." Absolutely. Lori Parks, you said, "It's affecting the whole world." That's the nature of when things like this happen, it affects the whole world. We've seen that with the Russian-Ukraine situation and impact that it has on Africa and all of the other nations. Like, this is not going to work in some silo. I saw what you were saying. C. Peter Morgan said that sometimes the host can say some ignorant things. Tell me where I'm saying that's ignorant. Tell me. Because if you look at connecting the dots, C. Peter Morgan, connect the dots. Help us to understand. If you know, then put it in the chat. Help me to understand what I'm saying is crazy. If we're talking about how governments, and look, I think all of us, no one wants to see babies killed. I want to put it back on Suzanne. Let's bring her back into the frame, please. Sean King on IG, one of the activists there on that space, he posted this video of children, Palestinian children who were blown apart, just really not blown apart, but they were severely injured. And I mean, when you're talking about this level of trauma, and you look at whether it's either Jews or Palestinians or whoever the case may be, you start to look at the nature of humanity, that we're in a place, as much as we like to talk about peace, Suzette, as much as we love to talk about it, who's really being peaceful today? You know what I'm saying? Like, when we look at these countries, because Israel has an arsenal, Russia has an arsenal, America has an arsenal. I mean, when we talk peace and we talk about preserving people's lives, but then it only takes a couple of things and then boom, situations sparks on. And the sad part about it is, yes, there are innocent people. People don't want to wake up. Nobody wants to be engaged in war unless you still have those who have been radicalized politically and socially. But I think a lot of people just say, look, man, we just trying to find the best way to do it, the best way to live life. But at the end of the day, governments are putting people's lives at risk, right? With policies, with sanctions, with removal of money or adding to money. And all of these things are happening without the American people truly knowing what's happening. All of these things are happening without being really informed, because we're getting one set of information on this side, and some would call it propaganda. And then on the other side, something else is being presented about the American people. So when the American people, when we're moving and traveling and going other places, and they ask questions like, "You from America? And what you doing? Oh, okay. So do you know what your country is doing?" And we're left in looking crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that hasn't happened to anybody, but if you ever travel abroad and somebody questions you about what's going on in this country, and you left looking crazy, did you know America? And you like, I didn't know, because we don't know. We don't know how far our government will go to hold on to power. We don't know what deals are being made in the back doors of Congress. We don't know. We don't know. And so when situations blow up in the way in a situation like this, or with Russia or anything like that, Now there's this talk of being human. There's this talk of having humanitarian effort. There's this talk of defending those who can't defend themselves and all of that stuff. But what got us to this point? Because nobody wakes up and say, I'm going to go to war with another country today. There had to be a buildup. Am I wrong in thinking this way, Suzanne?
Well, I wouldn't say governments don't do what you're talking about in terms of like being more measured. But we're not dealing with governments. We're dealing with Hamas. We're dealing with terroristic organizations. And there are people that are supported by certain countries in the Middle East that don't have this kind of measured frame of mind. Death to Israel is what they chant. Death to Jews, death to all these. They say these things and they mean it. There were people that were actually celebrating this in different pockets of the world, that this attack by Hamas was somehow, justifiable because of, again, what they see as Palestinian oppression. But we can't excuse, in my opinion, terrorism in whatever form it takes, because what happened to me, in my eyes, what they did to those people was epic slaughter, and is no way something that we can stand with. I condemn it wholeheartedly. From what I saw, this is just sick in terms of, this is not peaceful. But that's why we have to make that distinction. Not everybody has that measured mindset. We in the United States dealt with something called ISIS for however long. Looking at what they did in Afghanistan, what they did to women and girls, and came here and tried to perpetrate on us 9/11 style, and we were caught off guard. There are people that are calling this similarly, some would argue, to our 9/11. I think there can be some, differences and distinctions there. But the idea is that there are people who don't look at it as measured. I do believe what you're saying is true when it comes to certain governments in the region. Mm-hmm. But to terroristic groups, they don't think like that. They want to see what they thought of as an illegal established country to go, and that people within it should be demolished. And that to me is despicable. And that's why we have to make the distinction. There are terrorists among those who say they fight for the Palestinian cause, but they're not reflective of actual Palestinian people that are just suffering every day and living their lives. So we have to be very careful. That's why, as you pointed out, the regional possible conflict that can come into play, because the dominoes are looking at right now what is going on in Gaza and Israel, but the bigger players who are the allies to each, again, can cause something regional to pop off, and for it to become very ugly very quickly and escalate very quickly into a more global dynamic. So even the United States just sending a aircraft carrier straight to the Middle East because they're trying to deter actors like Iran, saying, don't play, don't touch it. You see what's going on, don't get emboldened. Because again, their mindset is not, who wants to not start a war today? Their mindset is deaf to people that are not like them and think like them. So that's why, again, as a Democratic partner, you will hear our leaders argue all day, we got to support Israel because of what the dynamic of the region look like and looks like, and why it's important that we also don't forget what happened to this large, group of people that were living at the time in the ghettos of Europe and were annihilated vis-a-vis, what the Nazis perpetrated on them. So I think, again, some of that history, because we have shorter memories sometimes, and we're looking at, they are much stronger than this group or that group. There is so much behind why I think the U.S. government, why we heard President Biden come out so strongly to support, because they know really and truly how other players in this region really feel. And they don't just feel that way about Israel, they feel that way about us. And some of them are nuclear powers as well. So there's a, let's hold the line here, support who we need to here. And again, the U.S. and Israel has had a long, very, very close relationship on purpose. So again, there's a lot more I can say there, but I know we have to take.
It's a lot more. We got to take another quick pause. We're gonna have to table this, and I'm gonna do my best to bring in some voices, Suzette. and crew to make sure that we get a more better understanding as this situation continues to rage on. But we're going to try to do our best to bring some more scholarly voices. I wanted to at least have this part of the conversation with us as the quote unquote it's just the people, because I think that's the first conversation where we stand. Then we can bring some more scholarly voices to give us some more insight and especially some more guidance. Because as we're moving forward in this whole thing of trying to figure out who and what and where do we stand in our personal politics and understanding of these things, it's important that we are rightly guided. And I would highly recommend that many of us to go ahead and start to look at it. Look at the history of either. I saw a couple of people say, what about the Ethiopian Jews? What about the Ashkenazi Jews? What about all of these different groups of people that have received various treatment based upon their skin color and all of those things? So there's a lot here, and certainly we can't resolve it here within this conversation. But the best thing I would say is that let's continue to read our history, understanding what's going on in that part of the world, and try to see, and I want to see that very quickly, I would encourage people to try to see themselves in this part of the history. You know what I mean? And I think that's what will connect for Black folks in this country. Black folks, we understand what oppression looks like. We understand what tyranny looks like. We understand what some level of structural violence looks like. So I think that we are probably best to understand this place that we find Palestinians and Israelis in this whole process. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We are streaming live on our home website at blackstarnetwork.com. If you missed the first half of the show, we at least talked a little bit about this ongoing conflict and where we stand. Again, it's an ongoing conversation. We are not going to have all of these questions resolved in one discussion, but we want you to go back. If you missed that first half of the show, go back to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. And the big thing is continue to support us as we're looking to have these discussions in an unfiltered, unadulterated way, in a way that we can understand and help us to wrap our minds around everything that is happening around us. So make sure you do your due diligence, support, empower this digital movement that we call Black Star Network. And we thank you for your support. We're also streaming live on Amazon, on your Fire TV, Amazon News. We're streaming live on Amazon Prime Video, where you can find us. We're streaming on Freevee and Plex TV. There we go. So we got a couple of platforms we're streaming on, of course, on social media under Roland Martin, and on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube under Roland Martin. That's also where you can join us as being part of our online culture crew, where we have a very, very dynamic group of folks who come in and have these discussions amongst themselves. We have it with them, you have it with you, and we just try to do our best to kind of navigate through all of the chat to get to some understanding, to get to some truth telling, and hopefully to find some solution on how to move forward. So we thank you for your continued support. All right, folks, speaking of those who can't speak up for themselves, everybody's been talking about the babies. Well, this is the latest motivation coming out of the state of California, as California is looking to be another state that will implement what is now being called the Ebony Alert. This is an alert that would focus on missing Black children and Black youth. We have all are familiar with the Amber Alert. This is specifically designed and tailored for Black children and Black youth. Now, this was something that was this came into existence as a result of a law from California Senator Stephen Bradford, the Democrat out of Gardena. He said, quote, take a look at this, folks. He said, African Americans, whether they are children or young adult, are often listed as runaways. He's the author of a new law that creates Ebony Alerts for a community disproportionately impacted by missing youth. He said African American young adults make up almost 40% of those individuals who come up missing. He said it's going to put significant change in how we react and it's going to put significant change in how we react and how we respond. Another lawmaker has pointed out, as well as we talk about this Ebony Alert. So this is a way, and I want to bring my sister Suzette back into the frame on this. Thank you, Suzette. This is a way for us to kind of like change the conversation, right? Something that comes to my mind is that when we had those that situation with Carly Russell, I think that's the sister's name, who said that she was kidnapped and it was all found out it was a fake. You know, she made up the story. But the fact is that there was a lot of conversation about who is looking out for women, who is going to take a woman's story. And I feel like this is the same way for children, right? And I'm glad Senator Bradford made this point, that when Black children go missing, Black youth go missing, they kind of cast aside. Now, here's the other thing. It is interesting. If you watch any type of documentary about children or anything like that, this actually happens to white children as well, too. Police just do not do a good job, I think, Suzette, in listening to parents and families when these situations come up. It's just like, oh, how old is your child? 14, 15? And your child could have been snatched up somewhere because of an online situation or because they were walking down the street. And police, oh, well, they'll come back home. They'll come back home. So I'm happy to know that here in the state of California, there is going to be an alert system specifically designed for Black children and youth. What's your take on this?
Super important, and it's a great step forward because, like you're saying, we disproportionately represent the amount of missing people totally based on our population. It is disproportionate. So let me break down the numbers so you understand what I'm thinking. So of each year, about 600,000 people are reported missing. 600,000, right? And we're looking at, as Farajii said, about 40% of those are Black. And when we look at the amount of our population in the United States, we're about 13.4%, according to the U.S. Census. They're about, some say as high as 17%. Because not everybody answers their census, but nonetheless, we were looking at of the children who are kidnapped, 33% of the children are African American, right? Black children, again, disproportionately outnumber our white counterparts when it comes to who is missing. But when we look at the media coverage, Farajii, it's estimated that Black children only get about 7% of the media coverage when it comes to missing and exploited children. So for California to take this step forward and look at possibly being more of a megaphone for Black missing youth is super important because we go missing more often, but we get way less coverage. Now, we've had a couple of cases where it has been national news, and it came out that the person was fabricating their whole story. But every day I don't know that I don't want to kind of repeat any falsehoods here, but even on Instagram, and I'm looking at, they're saying the numbers of missing kids in Philly and in other places across our country that are, not being reported on because they're assumed to be runaways. They're assumed to be, I think many states have a waiting period where you have to wait at least 72 hours before the person is even considered missing, or 48, depending on where you live. So there's that. But again, we don't get the coverage or the same or even similar or proportionate coverage as our white and Latina and Asian counterparts receive. So it's really important that we do highlight this. Black women are among the highest.
Black girls too. Let's put that out there. And look very quickly, like that's part of the reason why the Ebony Alert was established, because they found, and I don't have the numbers in front of me at this moment, but they found that when Black girls go missing, and I'm talking about little girls, y'all, I'm talking about like 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. When Black girls go missing, guess what usually happens to them, Suzette? They end up in the sex trafficking network. So now, and I mean, and we see that. Look, I'm convinced. I've lived in and visited many American cities. When I see some of these young sisters on the street, I'm convinced that they are part of some sex trafficking ring. I'm convinced they might be on the street during school hours. They might be on the street during late night hours. They're on the street looking completely out of it. And my heart and my prayers go to these families and to them sisters, them little girls, because this is a tragedy. And it's one of those things that we don't talk. I'm not gonna say we don't want to talk about. We just don't talk about quite as much. That the fact that your daughter, your niece, your granddaughter can be caught up, whether it's by coercion or whether it's by some violent kidnap, can get caught up in a situation where she's being trafficked. And so it's necessary. Someone asked in the chat, let me just check here. Very correct. Raw talk, real deal. You said, will we then have brown and other ethnic alerts? I don't know. But I'm happy we got an Ebony Alert. And if there are other alerts, so be it. I wouldn't be discouraging that.
It's okay for other people to advocate for that as well.
That's fine.
I don't think it has to be either or. It can be both and.
It could be. I agree. I totally agree. So I don't think that, but I think that the conversation about children, it's a little touchy, especially when it's about these girls. It's a little touchy. Are we really screaming out when girls are kidnapped, when girls are trafficked? Is there enough of a choir to hear to show that, look, our Black girls are important? That's my concern. That's why I think this is an awesome system for us to put in place. And I hope they put it in place in other states.
Absolutely. And I would kind of just ask our audience to do their part as well. And I know it has happened to me. South Florida is a big hub for human trafficking. Central Florida, Orlando area, ATL, other places around our country, unfortunately, have become hubs for snatching people and putting them into this sex trade. And I think I read somewhere that there was a wonderful, I think it's nationalized now, hotline that I had it saved in my phone. I don't have my phone. It's being fixed right now, but a hotline saved that when you see something, you can call. I've seen situations like what you have described, Farajii, where I'm looking and my spirit is just so uncomfortable with a young lady with like a group of men or a very young child. I saw her in a park one time, and the way her clothes were like, her shirt was off the shoulder, and I'm like, it's something about this that bothered me. Call the local police department non-emergency number, or call the possible human trafficking numbers. If you can Google it real fast on your phone, or just call the non-emergency number. It's better that you call an officer, come to the park. There's somebody that looks really weird. I asked this little girl, that's your dad? Is that your uncle? Who is that? They don't answer. Sometimes they don't answer and things like this. I report anything I see that look off. If it's me, if it were my daughter or my cousin or my baby sister, whatever it is, you would want somebody to say something. So sometimes we be minding our business, and I get that. But oftentimes what can stop this type of exploitation is a good, person, a Samaritan that just says, something is really weird about that whole situation. Let me alert an authority and they can come check it out. Right. So I think it's important that we don't, put ourselves in a position where we feel afraid to say something, because we know, in your spirit, sometimes when you look, you're like, something ain't right there. And it could save a life.
And I'm glad that you say that. But I think that this also helps to address that larger part of the conversation where do you, believing Black girls, believing Black women, that discussion that we've been having over these past few months, that if a Black girl says, look, if she goes missing and she ends up again, we gotta believe these girls. We gotta believe the boys, right? Because boys are traumatized and victimized just as much as girls nowadays, right? Boys can get caught up in a situation. And so it's not easy. I know it's not easy for us to talk about the idea that you can take a 13-year-old girl and then put her on in some space like that. It's not easy, but we got to believe them. We got to believe them. We got to do all of our due diligence. And back to the police very quickly, Suzette. If your local police department does not take the case seriously, you don't stop fighting. You don't just accept it. You don't just sit home and wait for that child to return back home. You don't stop fighting. I know that in some cities and states, they have a police, then you go to the sheriff's department. If you don't have nobody in the sheriff's department, hell, you go to the FBI. You know what I'm saying? You don't stop fighting until somebody hears you and listens to your story and believes what you got to say, because that's how valuable these children are. So big shout out to Governor Gavin Newsom for putting something like this into place. More importantly, big shout out to Senator Bradford for creating a law to create the Ebony Alert. I think it should be done in every state. Hopefully it does. I see some of the crew is saying, one person, Kathleen Davis, you say, I pray Michigan is next to adopt the Ebony Alerts. Absolutely. We got to make sure it's done. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about relationships. I know that's one of your favorite things you discuss in your show, relationships. Jada Pinkett Smith. I'm gonna just share that with y'all. Look, we'll talk about it on the other side. Stay with us. The conversation is up next, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me bring my sister back, Suzette.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
I can't even. All right, y'all. So if you did not know, Jada Pinkett Smith is back in the news for a good thing. She is about to drop her new book called Worthy, and it's about some things that happened in her life, telling her own story, which we certainly applaud. Jada's book will be dropping on October the 17th, but she has been talking to the media about some of the tidbits as to what we can expect in those pages. And one of the big things that she just recently shared, and I don't know if you knew this because I didn't know this, but I kind of knew this, but I had no idea. Her and Will Smith are actually separated and have been living, as she said, completely different and separate lives since 2016.
Nobody knew that. I don't think John knew that. Like what? Okay, Jada, thanks.
So for the past 7 years, and even during the time of that infamous Oscar slap, Jada Pinkett and her husband, because they are still legally married on paper, but they have been living separate lives, during that period, they have not been romantically involved. Interesting take. So she drops this. Of course, there's going to probably be some other things she's going to talk about in her book. But I want us to kind of talk a little bit about this because Jada has been the brunt of a lot of scrutiny, as you know, Suzette. People often put her in a space where they have made her out to be the bad woman, right? You're messing up Will Smith. Right, you're the problem, that type of thing. And you know, she has by being married to Will for over 20 years, probably like 25 years at this point, but being married to one of the biggest superstars in the world, it has come with a lot of pain, a lot of drama, a lot of joys, a lot of good moments, but they are still trying to figure things out. Now, even though that they're separated, when she was asked by if she's ever going to be legally divorced, she just said she just hasn't been at that point to get to that place to legally divorce him, but that they are co-parenting, obviously, and they are great partners. What do you make of this, Suzette? First, I know since you said you were surprised, because I was just surprised. Like,
listen, there's two celebrity couples that I feel like I probably know too much about. And that is Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade and Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Okay, we are in the group chat, y'all. We have been added, and there's no way that we have can take ourselves out of this group chat of everything that has occurred. Now, again, marriage is a very complex journey of two individuals who choose one another, and no one knows what will happen. And I would add, no one knows who the other person will become and how we evolve. And hopefully we evolve in those unions together, but sometimes people evolve apart. Obviously, a lot more makes sense to me now, knowing that they have basically been separated since 2016. I think there is a lot of pressure on Will and Jada, as we know them colloquially, because they have seen, for many before, I would say, the slap, like they were doing it right. Like they had, beat the odds, first and foremost, being a Hollywood couple and being a Black couple that are both powerhouse superstars in their own right, and raising a family with beautiful kids and all the stuff that we want, the storybook ending. I think people have been really vested in them because of their, celebrity and their openness to talk about their issues. Now, fast forward to, the Oscar slap and the red table. We have had, a more realistic and sometimes uncomfortable view into their lives and what it has been like for them on their journey of marriage. And for many of us, it was eye-opening. It was uncomfortable. It was like, why are you telling us all of this? Some of this needs to be probably better suited for a therapy session than sharing with the public, but they did. All right.
All right. Can I throw this in there? Because I see a couple of people. I see you, Stephen. Y'all act like we don't see y'all on the chat, right? And I see people like, I don't do celebrities. Stephen, you say, I'm out, man. I don't do celebrities. I got you. And who else said something? They about to leave the chat because they don't do celebrities. And big shout out to here we go. Let me just, I'm looking. This is live, folks. This is all good. I think it's Lori. Yup. Lori, you said, here we go. I could care less about their personal business. Why do others have all of their concerns, their everything into Jada and Will, instead of having more concern about living their own lives? I hear everybody saying this. I hear y'all saying this. Suzette, I think you know me well enough. I think you understand what I'm about to say. I hear y'all saying this. But let's stop playing. Let's stop playing, y'all. We are all wrapped up in celebrity culture. All of us. In some way, shape, or form, we are all wrapped up in celebrity culture.
And they push it on people. They push it on us a lot.
They push it, but guess what? We'd be like, give it to me. Give it to me. You know what I'm saying? It's like we push it, but then at the same time, it's like we do have this affinity toward celebrity culture. Now, here's why I think this is interesting. This is why I think we should at least have a conversation about it. One thing about Will and Jada is that there's a certain level of authenticity that comes along with their relationship. And for me, when I think about all of the ups and downs of their relationship and all of that they exposed, there's an honesty there. There's an honesty there, right? Like it takes a lot to come on some national platform and discuss your marriage the way you do, the way they do, the way Jada does, the way talking about her entanglement and just talking about everything. That takes a lot of honesty. It takes a lot of courage. And I think that's something that we could talk about. We could talk about within Black community, is that the courage to have these conversations, right? The thing that I found to be interesting is that we are living in a time, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong with that, but I think we're living in a time where people are looking to kind of break away from traditional norms when it comes to intimate relationships and looking at how they can redefine those norms to fit the interests of the two people involved, not to fit the society expectations, but to fit what those two people have decided they want to do with their relationship. Because I'm of the thinking of, this is what I'm thinking of. If you want to be married, you go and get married. But at the end of the day, there's only two people in this relationship. you and that person. And y'all determine how that relationship will be. Who are we, even though you put it out in the public space, but really, who are we to say, y'all ain't doing it right? That's your relationship. That's between you, that person, and the creator. That's your relationship. These are not two people that are like completely out of it. They don't have consent. That's their relationship. And we look at other people's relationships, right? We look at prime example of this, Oprah and Stedman. I had a chance to meet Stedman, had him on my show when I was doing a radio show back in Baltimore. He came into the studio. The man told me from his own mouth, that he said, "Do you know how many times I tried to, what did he say? That he proposed to Oprah?" He said, "Farajii, I have tried to propose to this woman so many times." He said, "After a while, I just gave up because she didn't want to get married. Because you tell me today that love doesn't exist between those two individuals, that they don't operate in the space of being lifetime partners." Talk to me.
No, I agree with you
Talk to me.
when it comes to what people should do, what I think works for them. I think when it comes to Will and Jada, again, because they have included us on this journey in such an intimate way by what they have written, by what they say during interviews. And now, again, here comes a book. So some people are saying this is really strategic in helping her get her money up. When things get quiet, she puts more stuff out there that is, salacious and headline grabbing. And she knows what not just Black folk, but people in general want to hear when it comes to, oh my gosh, not them, clutch your pearls kind of moments. But I do think, to your point, that for me, they probably have felt a lot of pressure to live up to expectation. Again, because they have been the Hollywood it couple, Black couple, but transcending just the Black community, at large. When they did things like, let's protest Oscars so white and those kind of things, it made such a big impact that, we've seen changes in the Academy. They have, lots of power, especially from both of them being Hollywood, royalty. So that hope for that union and the way the public probably, has all this, vested interest in them, has made it very difficult for them to be as authentic as, I guess, what she's doing now. Now, they have become very much more open in the last, 8 years, 9 years, especially since like 2020. So that's only like 3 years, but they have become, I think, more comfortable within, their reality. And I think if they have been separated, and it's almost like saying, just by the tidbits, I haven't seen the whole hold a copy interview yet. It hasn't dropped yet, but to look at like how they have to almost bring the couple, like the country, the public along their journey. Because again, my brother talks about this. People make more money when they're married. There's a whole industry around a man being coupled up, a woman being coupled up, and that brand for both of them increases in value. We can have a whole conversation about that.
That's the
it's really hard when the reality is not what the public wants, and the reality is they have actually been separated for quite some time, and it took them this long to get comfortable with, or to make us comfortable with, like, after the slap, we just knew, okay, something really, really wrong here. So, but now it's finally like, let us breathe, let us live, let us give you what is really happening. No one really knows what's going on in anybody's household, honestly.
No.
But here they are finally, another button being pressed, another TMI, but maybe they need it so that they could live. When you see it like this, Roger, I believe somebody about to out somebody with a side relationship, and somebody got some pictures of somebody, and so they have to, get ahead of it. There's one theory, not to say that happened here, but allegedly, this is just their way of, I think, bringing the public into their current reality, which they already knew. They was living separate. They already knew. They have kind of like moved on. Even sometimes watching Will Smith's Instagram, I always wonder, you'll see, Jaden and Willow and his big son Trey in some of the videos, but you never see Jada. I'm like, you're in Patagonia. Where is Jada? You're in this. Where is Jada? Like, I always wonder, he must take one vacation a month. Like, how do they make this work? But you never know based on social media. So that's why.
But see, that's what I'm saying, though. It's not.
Don't get too vested because you really don't know what's really going on.
Hey, and that's a good thing. We got to take a quick pause, but that's a good thing. You don't get too vested in celebrity couples, but more importantly, like, that's their life, right? Like, they've been doing this for 7 years. So if they've been doing this for 7 years, that just simply means that they have come to this place of like being comfortable with their new circumstances, right?
But they were still showing up on red carpets together.
And they still showing up on red carpets. And I mean, and who knows? They might get back together, but they're not together at this point. But it may happen. But I just think that, you know, if people want to have a relationship a certain way, it's okay. If they want to have if they're still maintaining some sense of stability within the household, right? Their children are a little bit older, so it's not like they're dealing with small children. But they still maintain some stability, respect within the relationship, respect for each other, and creating love for each other. When she opened up her book, and I'm gonna take a quick pause after this point. When she got the book, she did a video on, I think it was Instagram, but she did like a book, you know, she was showing the box being opened, and she was like, this is the first copy. Her whole family was standing around her. Will, children, Trey, her mom, everybody was standing around her. You see what I'm saying? And I think that when we're talking about these relationships, when things get rough, it's easy to be like, well, that's just messed up. But sometimes you just need a little inspiration. And I think so, because I think if you look at the numbers of people who are actually divorced in this country, it's getting higher and higher. Let's look at the number of people who are not getting married. Let's look at the number of women who would rather have children than actually being married. This dynamic of the relationship, the culture of relationships is changing dramatically in this country. And so what do we want to see? Everybody is not going to walk down the aisle. Everybody's not going to be in a relationship for 20, 25, 30, 40 years. We're in a different time. Now, does that mean it's good? Is it not bad? Yeah, I think it just simply means that people are just trying to figure out how to live their best life, quote unquote, with a partner. And I think that certain structures are falling down. So we just have to figure it out, right? This is a time and a period and a culture of change and transition. And I think it's interesting to see how this thing plays out. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation. I'm sharing what you got to say on this, folks. And of course, we'll continue our discussion with Suzette. Stay with me. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. Talking about the new revelation coming from Jada Pinkett Smith, as she revealed that her and Will Smith has actually been separated since 2016, folks. For 7 years, they've been living separately, and they have been living different lives. This is what came from the actress and producer and writer. But now, she says she finally is at a place that she can share that information with the public. And just wondering, getting your take on this, folks, and also bringing my sister Suzette back into the frame, just getting the take of this, because this is a woman who has shared so much of her life on various platforms, including her own show, Red Table Talk. But I think it's interesting that we, y'all tell me if I'm wrong on this, Suzette. But it's interesting that folks get mad at Jada for oversharing. But if y'all look at people's social media lately, do y'all look at what's on people's timeline lately? I mean, come on, y'all. This is the culture of oversharing. We love it. You know what I'm saying? I think it was Kerry Washington. She just had a major interview. She talked about how she considered suicide and weed, and she was sleeping around, right? Like, this is the culture that we're currently living in, where this is beyond the celebrity. I think this is just the human space that we find ourselves in. People are oversharing everything. Come on, what is the point? Look, a lot of us go on social media to see what's going on in other people's lives. Come on, yo. Come on. Now nobody likes the oversharing. No, I don't want to know. It's all about business. It's all, you know what I'm saying? I just want to put my information out there. No, you want to know what's going on in your friend's life, your homegirl's life, your man's life. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the culture of oversharing, right? And Suzette, I swear to you, you and I got to have a part of this conversation. I've been reading this piece from The Atlantic where the writer of this quote of the story has said that entertainment and reality has merged to such a point that everything that we do culturally is from a place of Hollywood. Like, everything is always rooted in being entertained. And currently, social media is such a phenomenon because it's a level of entertainment with reality at the root of it. And that's what I see. I see that people love to see other people's lives play out. Now, that might not be some of our crew members. Some of those crew members might be like, I'm tired of it. But that must mean you don't go on social media, because y'all don't tell me y'all don't entertain. Anytime when Kurt Franklin talked about his situation, people were on it. Every time there's a situation, whether it's a celebrity or non-celebrity, in time of somebody's life, there's this voyeuristic type of view that we start to take. People want to know about other people's lives. That is our form of entertainment. Nobody can tell me different. You can't tell me differently, Suzette.
No, I think there are forces.
You be looking at me like, Farajii.
No, I don't disagree. I'm just saying that there are forces that are promoting this type of mentality. I agree with you that social media has become such an intrinsic part of our day-to-day lives for those of us who are almost, from just users to literally addicted to it because it was designed for that. So much so that we have lost track of, you know, real relationships and real contact and real interactions. But it's not by chance, especially getting back to like the Will and Jada story, that this type of story, you know, grabs headlines. People know, you know, what messiness and what kind of more sordid details, you know, pique the interest of the general, you know, population. And if we're not careful, we oftentimes, I think, spend too much time. It's not a critique, just an observation, you know, kind of dabbling in things that don't really have the deeper significance they should have to us, because again, we don't know these people. It's just any, you know, human drama going on that I think one person in the chat said, just like our aunties and uncles had their family business that we didn't know about till we got of age and that kind of thing. Like we survive because we are a communal people. We survive. I'm talking about the human race because we are wondering what happened to somebody, and storytelling is powerful. So learning from that story helps us survive and teach a lesson, you know, to others. So I think it kind of does appeal to our very nature when it comes to understanding other people and trying to put pieces of puzzles together and figuring out the characters, etc. But I think we also have to be careful that it's not appealing to more of our, what the Supreme Court calls our prurient nature, where we're just looking at it because it's salacious and, you know, it's titillating and, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they're not perfect.
Too late.
But if you're not conscious of that within your own self-awareness, you can start to just ingest that without, you know, any kind of thought, any rhyme, any reason, and you're not evolving. You are kind of, you know, a consumer, if you will. And people want eyeballs of consumers. People want us hooked on, you know, information that doesn't really affect or better our lives, but entertain. And they have been, again, skillfully creating apps, skillfully creating, you know, across social media, things that have us glued to entertainment without actual substance. And so we have to be really aware of that, even though I do think there's value in some of the conversations we're having today on the culture about this type of relationship. I think it kind of allows us to understand that, you know, marriages are a journey and that no one is perfect. Even the most idealized couple has their issues. No wonder we've been hearing so much when she posts about Tupac, because people are like, you have a husband, why are you posting about Tupac? Well, in her mind, she's already moved past certain things because they haven't been, you know, living in the same home. So I think it gives us a better idea that, you know, people can define relationships for themselves. But when you're a celebrity, you have a lot more pressure and, again, a lot more dollars. And the marketing around you has always been stronger when you're together. And therefore, you know, you just keep pretending, you keep going, you keep making the public appearances so people think you're one thing. I think that's also very true for us as individuals. I don't think reality meaning, you know, everyday life. I think it's curated reality, what you want to believe about you or to see about you. I don't believe, and we should not believe everything we see on social media, because clearly you can have the Oscars picture and then the slap comes 2 minutes later, and then the book comes 2 years later telling you, well, we have been together, so that's that. So oftentimes we get kind of caught up. We just have to, I think it can be an escape, but we also have to keep ourselves grounded and know that we need balanced, substantive conversation and information to build with, and not to be so consumed and carried away with, again, the frivolity, some would call it, of you know, gossip and rumor and things like this. To
your point,
are not just being pointed in that direction because we got serious issues we got to do.
To your point, and I agree with you, that's not where the only part I push back on is that the culture right now is about the gossip. It's salacious, right? The culture right now is about somebody's life being either brought up or somebody's life that's down. That's the culture. I mean, that's why you do have certain media spaces online that are thriving. We could say TMZ, you know what I'm saying? We could say whatever you think of your favorite gossip site, and they're thriving. I follow gossip sites, you know me, on IG, you know what I'm saying? And I see the stuff that people are putting out there, what they're putting out there. And guess what? We know about it. We love it. We comment on it. Now, that again, that may not be a part of this group that's tuned in today to be like, oh, no, I don't do that. But talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers, talk to your family members. They are into this stuff, man. Celebrity culture wouldn't be at the place that it's in. Oversharing wouldn't be as strong as a part of the culture if no one else was into it. If everyone, oh no, that's just, we're not going to pay attention to it. No, we pay a lot of attention to this stuff. And I think that if we don't admit to it, we're in a state of denial. And you give me the address of where you live in, because that's huge.
Farajii, when it comes to, don't mean to cut you, but when it comes to media and public relations, what people see most often, they believe. That's why we hire PR firms. That's why even in the music industry, if they wanted to make gospel the most powerful and popular music, they could, because they control the means of getting it to the public. And what you play over and over again, even though you might despise the messaging behind a Sexy Red and whoever else that is popular, but people know that if they feed it to you over and over again, you start to eat it, whether you like it or not. So
here's the thing though. Hey, Suzette, guess what?
What comes first? If you're giving me gossip and you're not giving me full evolved substance in Black spaces, I think of myself as I am gossip. I am not gossip. This is what is being provided.
So what you're saying, but and trust me, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that there needs to be a conscious, deliberative effort to push back on that level of propaganda. Can we use that term? Yes, propaganda. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not pushing back on that propaganda, because look, we could talk about certain things. We as
individuals have to seek balance. When you eat your diet every day is a lot of gossip. You have to say to yourself, wait a minute, what about my life has improved? If nothing has improved, what can I get? Where can I get real information? Black Star Network, to look at other parts of myself that I don't know about, other issues that I don't know about, things that I hear, maybe a friend or someone at work, a coworker mentions, I should learn a little bit more about. We got to work on making ourselves smarter so we're more competitive. And again, to know about a lot of different things is better than to just be focused again on one type of information. Get your gossip in if you want. I'm not saying don't do it. I watch the Shade Room every now and then. I look and I flip and I see what pop culture is saying. That's true. But we have to also demand in Black spaces that don't just give me entertainment and music news. I think when you see those sites also pop up with what happened in Congress and who voted on what, you look at the comments. Plies himself, the rapper, has also dabbled into the discussions about politics, and he gets a lot of response. Black folk also want that elevated conversation.
Hey, but see, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing.
Feeding us is a cheap diet, so they can sell us these terrible
rapists
and corrupted children.
Hey, look, we got to take. Let me. No, it's all right, Suzette. You always go off on me and the show, so I'm not. This is not surprising. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk a little bit. Let's just wrap this thing up in a nice bow. Folks, stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Got my sister Suzette going. I got you going again. What I knew this was going to happen because it happens every week. Got you going. We're talking about Jada Pinkett Smith. Then it went into a conversation about, how we're being fed gossip and entertainment. But guess what? Look, I've been hearing this for years. I've been doing black media work for years. I'm telling y'all, folks. You saying having a balanced diet. We don't know nothing about no balance in this culture. Let's keep it real. Like nobody is pushing. Look, everything that black folks is involved in, I'm saying culturally, it's either a tinge of Hollywood. Like if you are a teacher, you got to be like the teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like if you could be an engineer, you everything is celebrity is through the eyes of a celebrity culture, right? That's why I truly believe that's why we have an issue, or we're challenged by everything from the real life stuff to the fictional stuff, right? Because we Hollywood, and I'm saying this in terms of celebrity culture, has been intrinsically intertwined in how we see things, right? We don't just see a public servant. We see Senator so-and-so. I gotta take a picture with her. She's a public servant. We see Vice President Kamala Harris. Oh my God. She is a public servant. But we see first, I never forget, this is no shade to her, but First Lady Michelle Obama, when she was asked the question, like who she wanted to be, and she was saying Beyonce. Got her a lot of flack, right? But there is this blurred line between reality and entertainment that we're seeing more and more of, right? So there's this political, if you're talking about politics, you could talk about education, you could talk about any place, but there's this, it's always these theatrics that comes along with it. You can't just be a normal, like we don't know your name, quote unquote. What is your brand? My brand is being a servant, a public servant, but you got to have a brand attached to that. So my point is that like we're in this space that as much as we push back, right? How many of us are going to actually just divest ourselves from consuming this type of content? Because that's where our culture is. Now we get mad at people for oversharing and for being exclusively like just open, right? We get mad at them. But look at the culture that we're in. How do you want to get mad at somebody for being a product of influences they have no control over? Well, they don't have control over that.
I do think there are many of us and Black folk in our community that do make a conscious effort to go beyond what people are trying to feed us, metaphorically speaking. And that's why channels like this exist. That's why there are creators who have support when it comes to substantive discussion, when it comes to understanding real issues, both interpersonal, right? Just because we talk about relationships and other things, those are real issues for us too. How to make sure we understand the dynamics of men and women and families and those type of things. Those things help elevate the community as well. Those have its place as well. When it comes to the mental health piece and advocacy and discussions that we've been able to use these platform like Mr. Martin's here and others to talk about, that has helped shift the culture as well. What we're saying is I'm saying that there is a place for the entertainment side of us, because again, we are very talented people and we have many layers to us. And again, we are trend setting when it comes to arts and culture, music, and beyond. But we have to also understand that we are also scholars. We are also
and I agree with you, Suzette. Suzette, I agree.
Have such a vision for what this country, what other places, other things that we discuss here can be. So much so that we have to respect all of it and seek it out. And when we do see media and other types of informational outlets highlighting those things that we want to see, we got to support it. Because if not, the eyeballs, they not lying. The eyeballs gonna go where there's Black information. And if it's always centered around music and Hollywood and all that, and again, not to diminish those contributions, but we are more than our entertainers. That is not the only leadership we want in the Black community. We want,
I agree,
well-rounded voice or voices to come to the fore. But yeah, it's cheaper, and it also keeps us more controlled when it's only this small group and tidbits about people's personal lives as the driving factor of what mainstream considers Black media. No. When it came to understanding dynamics of our country from its inception, the folks who started the first Black newspapers, the first people who started the first Black information givers understood their power, and we still have it. We just got to continue to cultivate that side of our audience. And again, you have to kind of get what they say, more flies with honey and vinegar. You got to have a little honey. I get it.
Can I speak to that? Can I speak to that?
But
can I speak to that very quickly?
People real meat too.
And look, can I speak to that?
Sure.
Real quick, we use celebrities as a driving force to bring our people in, right? Like, celebrities aren't there to just perform or do whatever, their talent is, but they're used as spokespeople. And we know that. We kind of bank on that. So if I have a celebrity guest on the show, right, then guess what's going to happen? People are going to come and watch the show. Now, even though the celebrity guest may not be the most knowledgeable about a situation, right? You know what I mean? Like we have people. You mentioned Sexy Red. Like, she came out the other day and said that Trump should be back in office, right? And that, he was the one responsible for all getting us stimulus checks and all that. Now, as misinformed that the little sister is, right? Mm-hmm. People were going in on her on social media. But at the end of the day, you were listening. See, you see what I'm saying? Like, you were there, you were listening.
They're not giving us nobody else.
No, see, they don't have to give us anybody else. We got to cultivate new people.
I agree with that.
And here's the thing. When we do cultivate people, if the person doesn't appeal to our entertainment side, right? The things that I think that made Obama such a phenomenon is because there was this level of entertainment. Like, his story and who he was, and it just all kind of played into the moment that he was elected as the first Black president. And he has this beautiful bright teeth and white and beautiful smile, and he got, like, it fit.
Well, he was also a man of substance.
But the substance is going to be kept to a minimum, because our culture, I truly believe our culture does not reward those of us to think critically. And I don't think that. I don't think so. Our culture, and I'm saying Black culture, right? If you go to any Black website, go to any of your favorite Black websites, I'll tell me what the first couple of headlines are. Fashion, entertainment, music, movies, celebrities. I've gone to websites for Black women, fashion, shopping, how you can get beauty products and stuff. It's always on the external stuff. And then you got to scroll down and be like, how to, it'd be things like how to live your best life, how to, just little stuff. And you like, everything is through the lens of being entertained. Everything is through the lens of Hollywood. Everything is through the lens. That's just the way the things are. And I'm not saying that it's good. I'm just simply saying that if we're going to push back on this part of the culture, then it has to be collective. Because somebody is listening. Tell them young sisters on IG that it ain't about being seen.
No, tell those people that we're asking Sexy Red about her political. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? As far as
we're doing what we've been fed to do. as you said, right?
Is it
We're
controlled
doing
by
what
black
we've been
people?
fed.
Is it controlled by black people?
No, it's not controlled by black people. But is hip hop controlled by black people?
No, we can go even deeper, but
No,
the point is that
no.
we have to serve as our own filters for our kids, for our community, for what we support with our money, with our eyeballs. Our
Yeah,
attention is right now a priceless commodity. So again, if there's only one type of food at the buffet, that's the food you're gonna eat.
yeah.
You didn't want the food, that's what came on the buffet. You and I probably see it very similar in terms of the outcome, but maybe a little bit different from the root cause as to why it's this way. But if we cultivated minds from the school-age children up to now to think critically, we would have a very different kind of
Oh, I
collective.
agree. I agree.
So
I think
when we are
you
looking
and
at
I on the same
the
page. I think
adult
you and I
now
on the
that's
same.
sitting in front of his or her phone at 18 and what they're interested in because they grew up now with, a TikTok kind of generation of understanding that we have 20-second sound bites or less, and people are going to like you or dislike you because of how pretty you are, how you put yourself together, did they like your outfit, and they worried about the wrong stuff. There's a shift that's happening not only in Black America, in the greater culture that we are a part of, and therefore
Yeah.
we are also a product of.
We got to be more conscious in the sense of intentional. We got to be more intentional about what's going on, right? Like now that we know that these things are happening, now that we know that sometimes Black celebrities can be used as tools and fools to bring us into a situation that's not in our best interest. We know that. We also know that there is an effort to keep us dumbed down. We do know that. We know that there's also an effort to make sure that our story is not being told, which is why we even have a Black Star Network. We know all of these things. We got to be intentional. And I think that somewhere along the line, we don't all wake up ready for the revolution as Kwame, brother Kwame, who said that? I forgot the brother's name, brother Stokely Carmichael. He always would answer the phone, ready for the revolution. We don't wake up with ready for the revolution. We wake up ready for the indoctrination. We wake up ready for the timeline. You see what I'm saying? And so we just got to be more intentional. We know these things are happening. We know these things are happening, but somewhere along the way, we have told ourselves that we either can't overcome this is too much, or look, all I'm gonna do, man, look, we don't have the patience to go through this process of liberating the mind, the heart, and the spirit from a system. So since we don't have the patience, we like, man, see, ain't nothing Black folks ain't gonna change. I'm gonna just go out here and get money. And we walk away from the very thing that could take us to the next level. So there's a lot at play, and I agree with you. Look, trust me, I agree with you. It's not always about partying and entertaining and all of that stuff. But I do know that in my years of service of young people and adults, when you try to teach Black folks to do certain things or trying to take us in a different direction, as much as people say, well, y'all shouldn't be talking about Jada Pinkett Smith, if we're talking about something else, then people be like, man, y'all always stay so serious. You can't win for losing.
That have the stomach and the attention span, if you will, in this microwave society to want the long form journalism, long form deep dive into topics.
Right.
There is audience for that. We just don't have enough of a supply of that. Well, our supply is the entertainment business, and so we are eating what is supplied. But I do think there are people within our community, a lot more than we know, that will eat different food, if you will, metaphorically speaking, if it was offered. But who is feeding it? Who is putting together the programming schedule at the radio station? Who is putting together, the website? Maybe the websites are Black owned. Maybe they have to do certain stories to get advertising dollars. So the makeup companies can sponsor the website, or the whatever brand of fashion can sponsor. There are so many decisions being made, and what we consume. But I think it's both on a global as well as an individual level. We have to, each person, decide what is important to me, and I'm going to try to seek out and support, either if I can put $1 on it, or if I give my attention to it, write a comment, comment, share, whatever way we can support what is actually substantive, or that we see a deeper reflection of ourselves in, we got to support it. So we can
There
do
it
that
is.
on a daily basis. But I just feel like the mass production of this kind of like mindless media is not just a symptom of Black culture.
I love it.
It's for everybody. And we are also a part of the bigger culture. So we are also suffering as a part of it. But anyway, I know we got to go.
We got to go. Hey, Pastor Damon Blissett said, well, we did just have an extended segment on this.
Y'all the problem. Y'all don't like it, but y'all the problem. No, we're trying to take it a different direction. But no, people have to realize we have to have balance. We're not saying it's all bad, but we have to have balance.
We do have to have balance. My sister Suzette, every time she comes on here, y'all, she brings something, a different energy, a different spirit. I'm feeling her energy today. She ain't playing no games today.
Thank you.
Suzette ain't playing no games. Make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
She's not pulling out no BS, y'all. Make sure y'all follow her. Suzette Speaks. She's also subscribe to her show on YouTube. She does the Suzette Speaks show. She's also on Pantheon, so that support is definitely necessary. And just continue to follow her. She's doing dynamic work, and she's doing her part right there in South Florida. Suzette can be found every Wednesday here on The Culture. Suzette, can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We need these robust conversations. Hope you guys enjoy.
No doubt. No, thank you. Yes, ma'am. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us in the discussion. Big shout out to my online culture crew. Oh my gosh. Truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. Big shout out to my production team, Joe, Shannon, Lisa, Maddie, Chris, my man, King Keenan. Thank you for making this show possible. Folks, your support is everything. If you enjoyed the discussions, even when we have these kind of like ongoing conversations, like we just had a moment ago, make sure you go to the blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and continue to support us here on Black Star Network so we can just have these discussions in a very, very unfiltered way, and more importantly, a way that is relevant and relevant to us as part of being as part of Black America. So your support means everything to us. So make sure you give to that, and make sure y'all stay tuned. Of course, starting on Monday, we're going to be having our Black Men Summit. The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, folks. We can't express this to you enough. The dynamic voices that we're going to bring to you by the grace of the God, it's going to be amazing as we're talking about redefining, and celebrating Black manhood. This is going to be a different and more special conversation about Black men than we ever had on this show. So the Black Men Summit will be happening, kicking off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March, which is this upcoming Monday. You don't want to miss this week of all next week of special conversations related to Black men. So you should be looking forward to that. So I thank each and every one of you. Follow me on all social media platforms, The Real Farajii on IG. You can follow me at Farajii on Twitter. I would love to connect with you, and let's continue the conversation. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening. Peace.